What's going on, everybody? This is Crazy Crab coming in here for Entertainment Hacker today. Gonna talk a little Star Wars, man, and I gotta talk a little bit about something that freaking rubbed me the wrong way, and it was said by Chris Stuckmann, who is, of course, a famous YouTuber. He reviews movies. I've watched many of his reviews. Typically, he does a fine job. Not here to go after him in general, just something that he said in his Star Wars Rise of Skywalker non-spoiler review. Now, in his spoiler review, he finally saw it again and he gave his thoughts. And really, I respect his spoiler review because, you know, he understood finally that these people had absolutely no plan, no roadmap, and that the trilogy is just a hot mess. And now that he understands that, he was able to be more critical of the film, and he ended up giving it a C-. And you know what? Regardless, though, whether he liked it or not, that's not really the point. But I am just saying that, you know, he had a good review, and even his non-spoiler review was fine, other than this part where he says, y'all need to stop going after these movie studios and these directors and these producers for these movies, you know, because that they're not the way you remember them, or they're not the way that you want them to be, because they're not the way that you visualize them from when you were, you know, a child. Basically, that's what he's saying, you know, that they're not the way that we remember them, and that's why we don't like them, which is freaking mind-blowing, because he just got done tearing apart The Rise of Skywalker and talking about exactly why it's trash. He went through the whole reason why it's trash, and he also went through the whole reason why the trilogy's trash. And this is the same man, all due respect, this is the same guy who freaking destroyed the prequels. And I didn't like the prequels either, but of course now I respect the prequels a lot more, because just like anything else, everything is relative, and now we see just how bad a trilogy, Star Wars trilogy, can be. But anyway, yeah, Chris Stuckmann tore apart the prequels, and, you know, he pretty much tore apart this new movie. And then he comes out, and this is a guy who he's criticized many movies, many a movie, has given F's to many movies, has chewed out many, has talked about how, look at his Cats review, watch his Cats review that just came out. I mean, he has no problem tearing apart a movie, criticizing directors, criticizing producers, and that's fine. That's what we do. That's what we do. We watch a film and we discuss film, we criticize film. So I don't know, you can tell, though, especially in his non-spoiler, he's very hesitant to go after this film and very hesitant to talk bad about it. Then he has to go on this, like, almost a damage control little crusade for the film and for Disney. It's like, look, you need to not go after them. You need to not talk bad about them, because it's not the way you remember it. And let me finally get to the point here. The problem with The Rise of Skywalker, the problem with this entire trilogy, has nothing to do with what we, quote unquote, want them to be, because they're how we remember it. How we remember it. I don't want Star Wars or expect Star Wars to be exactly how I remember it. That is, first of all, extremely unrealistic. And second of all, I don't want to see 80s special effects. I don't necessarily want to see, you know, the movies be just like they were in the 80s, you know, when they made in this actually late 70s, early 80s. I mean, we have so much better equipment now. We have so much better technology now. And yes, I do like practical special effects. I wish they would do more practical special effects. But at the same time, what I'm saying is, I know movies are going to be modern day. Movies are going to look different nowadays, and basically that's going to be better as far as visuals. As far as writing, good writing is good writing. So yeah, I would expect and hope for good writing, good dialogue, good character development. What was a good movie in 1940 is what a good movie is now. A well-developed plot, strong characters, a story that we can connect to, characters that we can connect to and care about, and a story that makes sense and is not a just jumbled mess that doesn't make sense. It's very simple. So, you know, what the problem with this new trilogy has nothing to do with, oh, it's not how we remember it. The problem with this new trilogy is it is probably the most disrespected, disjointed, incoherent, nonsensical, politically agenda-filled crap fest of a trilogy in the history of trilogies. It is so bad. And if we even put aside all of the SJW politics that are in there, we can put that aside. We can put even aside the fact that they completely disrespected the characters, the original trilogy characters. I can't even get it. Everyone knows they were completely disrespected. And we can even put aside the fact that they just completely reversed the entire arc of Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker from the original saga. The first 6 films basically out the window. All that, let's just put that aside. Even if none of that bothers you, there is absolutely zero flow, zero continuity between these 3 films. It is absolutely horrible. It would be like taking 3 different filmmakers and having them write their own trilogies. You write a Star Wars trilogy, person B writes a Star Wars trilogy, person C writes a Star Wars trilogy, then they make their trilogy. So they each make their 3 movies, but then we take episode 1 from one of them, episode 2 from the second guy, episode 3 from the third guy, and then say, boom, here's your trilogy. Guess what? These 3 movies are going to have nothing in common. They're going to have no flow. They're going to be clearly disjointed and just an absolute mess. The tone of each movie is off. Everything is wrong here. Everything is wrong. And I put aside all the real complaints that I talked about earlier. But even if you put aside all that, these movies are just terrible as a trilogy. Absolutely terrible. They're not that good on their own, especially these last 2. The Force Awakens, I was not happy with. In retrospect, I believe that has to be the best movie because The Last Jedi, as we know, is just god-awful. And this new Rise of Skywalker, what a train wreck that is. I mean, I'm sorry, but this is bad. And Chris Stuckmann, all due respect, comes out and blames the fans, saying we need to not talk bad about the filmmakers because the movies aren't the way we remember them. That's the problem, Chris? You really believe Star Wars fans are unhappy with this trilogy because they're not the way we remember them? That's our problem. I cannot believe that Chris Stuckmann really believes that. I can't believe anybody really believes that. A gigantic 1,000-page book could be written covering every single problem in this trilogy, and it would still be lacking. I could talk for hours, and I'm not going to, about everything wrong with this trilogy, and it is all legit. And it all stems from one fact. Kathleen Kennedy, who was put in charge of Lucasfilm and put in charge of Star Wars, absolutely 100% does not care about Star Wars. She does not care. She is not a fan, nor is J.J. Abrams, nor is Rian Johnson, nor is the story group, nor is basically anybody involved in Lucasfilm. They do not care about Star Wars. Pure and simple. They cared about the fact that Star Wars had millions and millions of fans and that they could use it to get what they want from those millions of fans who they considered a bunch of idiots and suckers. And I think we have every freaking right to go after them and say that they absolutely blew it with this franchise. And as far as I'm concerned, these latest 3 movies, this latest trilogy is an absolute disaster, and I consider it bad fan fiction. Horrible fan fiction. And by the way, Chris Stuckmann, if you have that attitude that Star Wars fans are just going to hate everything no matter what, I ask you, why are Star Wars fans enjoying and loving The Mandalorian? And why do many Star Wars fans who hate this new trilogy enjoy some of the anthology films? A lot of them love Solo. Personally, I didn't, but I did really enjoy Rogue One. And to this day, I stand by that I enjoyed Rogue One. And I really like it. And I will continue to watch it, even though it makes me a little sick to watch Disney Star Wars in any form. However, that particular movie I did really like, and I've already purchased it and I own it, and Disney's not getting any more money from me throwing in a Blu-ray. So that particular movie, okay, I'm fine with. But this trilogy is god-awful, and it needs to be erased from the universe. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Crazy Crab here for Entertainment Hacker. Y'all have a fantastic day. And by the way, I do enjoy a lot of Chris Stuckmann's reviews, and I didn't mean to go hard on him, but I thought it was a horrible take, and I just wanted to defend myself and the other Star Wars fans who hate this trilogy and can't stand Kathleen Kennedy. Have a great day. Talk to you next time.